The tension around Ibrox is reaching breaking point. You can feel it in the stands, in the pubs, on social media. Everywhere you turn, there's that same sinking feeling. A sense that this season is already spiraling, and the man in charge, Russell Martin, might not be the one to pull it back. The pressure is absolutely mounting, and while the board have yet to make a definitive move, the fans are already moving for them. There's a storm brewing outside Ibrox, and the noise is only getting louder. Let's start with what's happening off the pitch, and it's not pretty. The Union Bears, one of Rangers' most vocal and organized supporter groups, have officially called for a protest outside the stadium before the upcoming Premier Sports Cup clash with Hibernian. It's not just frustration anymore. It's full-blown revolt. The message is crystal clear. Russell Martin and CEO Patrick Stewart must go. No more second chances. No more excuses. They've scheduled the protest for 4:30, just over an hour before kickoff. And they're not alone. The group made it clear they're standing shoulder to shoulder with other fans and supporter collectives, all united in demanding swift, decisive action. Their statement didn't pull any punches, calling Martin's leadership a disgrace and Stewart's decision-making catastrophic. These are strong words, but they're not coming out of nowhere. They come after weeks of substandard performances, baffling tactical decisions, and a sense of chaos both on and off the pitch. And this is where things get really interesting, because with every bad result, every uninspired press conference, every dropped point, one name keeps creeping back into the conversation. Steven Gerrard, a man who already knows what it's like to bring pride back to Rangers. A man who stood up to Celtic's dominance and said, "No more." His name carries weight in this city, and right now, it feels like more than just fan nostalgia. It feels like momentum. Let's not forget what Gerrard achieved. That 2020 to 2021 title-winning season wasn't just success. It was a statement. It was organized, passionate, and relentless football that brought the league title back to Ibrox and finally ended a run of Celtic dominance that felt never-ending. That team, built under Gerrard, had identity, discipline, and belief, qualities that are sorely lacking right now. When he left for Aston Villa, it left a void that no one has really filled since. Now, after a stint in Saudi Arabia with Al Ettifaq that fizzled out earlier this year, Gerrard has been lying low. No rush to return. No big press appearances. Just time with his family, some golf, and the odd pint. But the Rangers' job? That might be the one thing that makes him put the clubs back in the garage and step into the dugout once again. Because make no mistake, this isn't just another job. This is unfinished business. One of his former players, Greg Stewart, has come out publicly and said what a lot of fans are thinking. That bringing Gerrard back is a no-brainer. That there's no style, no fight, and no leadership right now. Things that a Gerrard-led team always had in abundance. He said it ruins his weekend watching the current squad limp through matches with no direction. And honestly, he's not alone. A growing number of supporters are feeling that same emptiness, that same disconnect. Russell Martin, for all the talk when he arrived, hasn't delivered. Not even close. No wins in the league after 5 matches. Sitting in 10th. Already trailing Celtic by 9 points. That's not a blip, that's a crisis. And when asked if he still has the backing of the board, his answer, "We'll see," tells you everything. It doesn't inspire belief. It doesn't sound like a man ready to turn this around. It sounds like someone waiting for the inevitable. And the fans? They've seen this movie before. They've watched managers cling on for too long, only for the damage to become irreversible. They know what it looks like when things aren't working, and more importantly, they know what it looks like when things do. That's why Gerrard's name gets louder with every passing day. Not because he's a fairy tale solution, but because they've seen what he can build. Because they've felt that energy before. And right now, they're desperate to feel it again. Behind the scenes, the new American owners are facing their first true test. Fans are watching closely to see if they'll act swiftly or hide behind excuses. The message from the terraces is clear: do something, or we will. And it's not just empty words. The protests planned by the Union Bears are just the start. If nothing changes before Saturday, it's going to be loud, it's going to be visible, and it's going to be impossible to ignore. This could be the turning point of the season. Because if the board acts, and Gerrard's return becomes more than just whispers, the entire atmosphere changes. That's the kind of appointment that unites a fractured fan base, that brings belief back into the dressing room. and that sends a message to the rest of the league that Rangers are back in business. But if the board dithers, if Martin is allowed to drag this on any longer, the damage might already be done. And while all this is happening, former captain Barry Ferguson has been sharing his own frustrations. He wanted the manager's job in the summer, and you can sense how much it hurts him to see the club in this state. He's talked about the transfers he would have made, players like Lawrence Shankland, Josh Mulligan, Vax Laverne, all names he believes could have made a real difference. Not glamorous signings, not headline makers, but proven talents in the Scottish game who understand what it takes to win here. Ferguson's message is brutally honest. He believes there's a stubborn ignorance inside the club when it comes to Scottish players. That too often, they're overlooked for flashier, foreign options who don't understand the league, the weather, the grind. And to be fair, he's got a point. You look at players like Aaron Hickey, Lewis Ferguson, Josh Doig, guys who came through the league and went on to impress abroad. There is talent here, but you need the right eye to spot it. And he didn't stop there. He talked about Alex Gogic, a standout for St. Mirren who impressed him with his aggression, leadership, and adaptability. These are the types of players Ferguson believes should be in the dressing room. Players who won't hide, who'll fight for every ball, who understand what it means to wear the badge. It's a mentality thing. And right now, that's exactly what Rangers seem to be missing. The sad reality is that the identity that once defined this club, that grit, that pride, that fear factor, feels like it's slipping away. And with every limp performance, every post-match apology, every shrug of the shoulders, fans are reminded of just how far the standards have dropped. That's why the anger is growing. That's why the protests are happening. And that's why a name like Steven Gerrard keeps surfacing, because Rangers fans aren't just dreaming of better. They remember better. They lived it. There's still time to salvage something from this season, but the clock is ticking. The fans have made their stance clear. The players look lost. The manager's on the brink. And if the board don't act decisively, they risk letting this season spiral beyond repair. The question now isn't just whether Russell Martin is the right man for the job. It's whether the board has the courage to admit he's not, and to bring back someone who's proven he is. So here we are, staring down the barrel of a season that already feels like it's slipping away, and there's still 3/4 of the campaign to go. But inside Ibrox, everything feels fragile. The connection between fans and club is on life support. The football on the park is flat, and the man in the dugout looks more isolated by the day. And while the Steven Gerrard return talk continues to swirl, what's becoming clearer with each passing week is that this isn't just about one man. This is about a club that's completely lost its way. When Russell Martin arrived, there was a lot of chat about modern football, structure, playing from the back, and building a long-term vision. But you can't build anything if there's no foundation. Right now, Rangers look like a team that's been assembled with no spine, no leaders, no natural winners. And when you've got no one on the pitch who looks ready to drag you through the rough patches, you're finished before you start. Martin might have a clear footballing philosophy, but this is Glasgow. Philosophy means nothing if your team is getting bullied in midfield, leaking goals from set pieces, and creating absolutely nothing in the final third. It's not about pass completion rates or heat maps. It's about grit. It's about heart. It's about making Ibrox a fortress again, a place where teams come and already feel beaten before a ball's kicked. Right now, teams are showing up, licking their lips, and walking away with 3 points like it's a training match. And that, more than anything, is what's stinging the fans. Because Rangers have always stood for something. Passion, pride, relentless standards. You don't just lose games and move on. You take it personally. You feel it in your chest. And you respond. But this current squad? They look like they've checked out already. No urgency, no intensity, no leadership. It's not just about tactics anymore. It's about character. And that's what the supporters want back. Not just results, but identity. Watching Rangers used to mean something. Now, it's become a chore. You can see it in the empty seats, in the muted full-time whistles, in the sheer silence after conceding another soft goal. The soul is being sucked out of the season. That's why people are calling for change. Not just at the managerial level, but across the board. Patrick Stewart, the CEO, is under just as much pressure as Martin. The fans see him as the man who put this whole mess into motion by appointing a manager with no real track record of handling a club of this size. And what makes it worse is how quickly Stewart turned on the supporters when the criticism started. Instead of fronting up and taking responsibility, he doubled down. That only widened the gap between the boardroom and the stands. And in a club like Rangers, that's a dangerous place to be. You can feel the disconnect. You can feel the unrest. And now with the Union Bears and other fan groups organizing visible protest action, the message is echoing through Govan. Enough is enough. These aren't just emotional outbursts. These are the voices of people who pour their money, their time, and their identity into this club. And they're tired of being taken for granted. They want a club that reflects their values. A team that looks like it actually gives a damn. A board that listens instead of lectures. And look, nobody's pretending that Gerrard is a perfect fix. He's been out of management for a while. His spell at Aston Villa started bright, but ended flat, and the move to Saudi Arabia was more about financial opportunity than footballing legacy. But here's the thing, Rangers isn't just any job. It's personal for him. He came here with a point to prove, and he left with his head held high, having delivered a historic title and restored belief to the club. The question now is whether he still has that fire, that same edge that made him such a force on the touchline during his first spell. If he does, and if he's willing, then there's an opportunity here not just for redemption, but for resurgence. Gerrard's return would bring back a sense of direction. It would reset standards. And maybe, just maybe, it would remind the players what it actually means to wear that badge. Because right now, that badge is being disrespected. On the pitch, the performances are flat and lifeless. Off the pitch, the silence from the board is deafening. And the fans? They're being left to pick up the pieces. Again, Barry Ferguson's comments this week struck a nerve for a reason. He's not a man who sugarcoats things. When he talks about missing out on Scottish talent, it's not just hindsight, it's frustration. Because he knows the kind of players who can thrive in this league. He's played with them, managed against them, watched them week in, week out. And to see Rangers ignore those options for untested, overpriced gambles from abroad, it's maddening. Look at Lawrence Shankland, available on a free, and now scoring goals against Rangers at Ibrox for fun. That's not just a missed opportunity, that's negligence. A natural goal scorer, right under your nose, and the club couldn't get it done. Then there's Josh Mulligan and Vax Laverne, young, hungry, with potential to grow and battle for the shirt. But again, overlooked. Ferguson sees this as a pattern, and he's right. There's too much focus on shiny objects and not enough respect for players who understand the league, the fight, the history. And it's not just talent, it's mentality. That's what Ferguson highlighted when he mentioned Alex Gogic. Maybe not a household name, but a warrior. A fighter. The kind of player who makes you harder to beat just by being on the pitch. That's what Rangers are missing, that edge. That snarl. That person who refuses to accept defeat. You don't always need the most expensive players. You need the right ones. And that's a lesson this current leadership seems unwilling to learn. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. In the past few days, a curious murmur has been weaving its way through the corridors of Scottish football, one that few expected and even fewer can yet quite believe. Word is spreading that Rangers defender John Souttar has been sold to Brentford in what insiders are describing as a lightning-quick piece of business. If true, the move would represent one of the more surprising transactions of the season, given Souttar's steady presence in the Ibrox backline and the sense that he had only just begun to settle into his role in Glasgow. The whispers suggest the London club acted swiftly, identifying the Scotland international as a player who could bring grit, composure, and a touch of rugged experience to the Premier League stage. Brentford, never aside to shy away from clever recruitment, are said to have pounced before any rivals could test the water. Rangers, for their part, appear to have sanctioned the deal almost as quickly as it surfaced, perhaps tempted by the financial terms, perhaps convinced that reinforcements already on their books can cover the void. Around Ibrox, the reaction is a blend of disbelief and resignation. Souttar, though not always free from injury worries, had built a reputation as a dependable stopper with a strong aerial presence. Supporters are left wondering if the club has acted too hastily, moving on a defender whose best years might still be ahead. Yet some insiders insist Rangers were wary of lingering fitness doubts and felt the timing, financially, was right. At Brentford's end, the mood is one of quiet confidence. Thomas Frank's side has made a habit of snapping up players who raise eyebrows at first glance but prove shrewd in the long run. Whether Souttar follows that pattern remains to be seen, but for now the chatter continues to ripple across pubs, terraces, and social feeds. Was this a deal born of opportunity, or the start of a wider reshaping of the Rangers squad? For now, it remains rumor cloaked in intrigue, but if the smoke proves real, John Souttar's next chapter may be written under the bright lights of West London. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.